Welcome back to another video. Hope you are having a great day, and today with a different setup. We've got a dual screen setup right over here with two computers. One, it's right here with a dedicated GPU so that we can play some games, but the other one is right over here, just a mini PC for productivity like Word, PowerPoint, Excel and whatnot. And usually when we have two computers and two displays, we also need two keyboards, two mouses, two gamepads and everything times two, or we will need to be unplugging and plugging on each of the computers that we want to use, unless we use something like this right over here, which is a KVM. This is the latest KVM from TESmart, at least for this kind of setup, two computers, two displays. It supports up to 8K at 60 Hz, but more interesting, dual 4K at 120 Hz, which is awesome for those that want to play some games, either on a computer or even on a gaming console. And there are a lot of things that we can do besides organizing our desk, but the most basic one is probably that I can switch just from one computer to the other computer with one single press of a button, and I will still be using the same keyboard, the same mouse, the same gamepad, everything the same, so my desk will be a lot more organized. But there is a lot more that we can do with this next generation KVM from TESmart, so let's go and take a closer look at it. These are the contents that we will find inside the package, some paperwork, a user guide, which you'll see that you won't need because it's so easy to use, and I will explain in just a few moments. There's also a remote control. If we are a bit far away from the KVM, we have the option to control it via the remote. There's also a power adapter, which depending on the region that you are, in this particular case I'm located in EU, in this particular case I'm located in EU, so I've got this power plug, but if you are in UK or US, you will have the correspondent power adapter. In terms of cables, there are 4 cables, but 2 different kinds of cables. This is a combo cable, a great quality combo cable, by the way. This is a 8K HDMI, but also with the USB connection, USB type A, which is the one that we will connect to our computer along with this HDMI, and then on the other end it's a USB type B, which we will connect to the KVM along with another HDMI. So there are 2 cables of these that we will use for the 2 outputs of the 2 computers, and then there are 2 cables which are just normal but high quality normal HDMI cables, 8K as we can see right over here. But when I mean normal, it's just HDMI without the combo that we have seen. So all the cables that we need to have it working. Now, TESmart has done quite a few KVMs and a lot of solutions. I will leave some links down below, but this one actually has a different design. Usually there's a metal construction. This one is made of plastic, but the plastic, I must say that it's not a cheap plastic, and it's not one single type of plastic. And I just removed everything from my desk so that I can show a little bit better without unfocusing it. So we have different type of plastics here, well built with a really nice look and design. Now at the front there are a power button, there's also a switch button that we can cycle through the computers that we have connected, and then the LEDs, which we will see in just a few moments how it works. There's also 2 USB 2.0 ports that we can connect our peripherals, mouse and keyboard, but we can also connect other devices if we want. 2 USB 3.0 ports so that we can connect faster units like storage and so on, and a audio jack combo, so we can connect a headset with microphone and headphones if we want, or just a headset with phones only and no microphone. It's at our choice. Now before we look at the back, there's also grills right over here on both sides and also at the bottom so that it refreshes the unit and keeps it cool. There are some really nice rubber feet here so that it will grip to any surface right over here, which is really awesome. In terms of connectivity, simple as this. There is the power input. There's also a Ethernet connection so that we can have access to our computers without having extra cables, so it will be connected here. And then there's a service port, which usually just the manufacturer will use this, or even if we need to do any kind of firmware upgrade, but let's not worry about this one right over here. In terms of connectivity, this is what matters. We have two outputs that we will connect to our two displays via HDMI cable, and these are the only cables that are not included because we have cables that we have from our display, so that is just fine. Here we have the connections for PC number 1 and PC number 2. So we will connect one normal HDMI cable that we have seen before, and then we will also connect one combo cable that has HDMI and the USB type B on one hand and USB type A on the other hand, which will connect to our computer. The same with PC number 2, and basically this is it. So now that we know how easy it is to connect, let's go and put it on our setup and test it out. So here we are on our setup, everything is connected. I've got a few accessories here that I want to share with you, including some accessories for gaming. I've got a gaming computer here with a dedicated GPU and a mini computer here with a normal integrated GPU that we can use for work. We will go through everything, starting with the simplest things and finishing up probably with some shortcuts like this one right over here, that I can just change my one screen to computer number 2 and my mouse is here, but suddenly I just press this button and bam, I'm working on this computer, and right now I'm working on this computer. And if I do like this and like this, I will have my computer number 1 on both screens. But if I want to use it without any shortcuts, I can also press right over here and go back. Besides that, we also have some options on the remote control, so we are going to cover that. Now, first of all, I would like to mention right over here that this is a setup that supports 8K at 60 Hz, dual 8K at 60 Hz, but more realistic for our setups, 4K at 120 Hz, which is awesome for those that want to connect gaming computers, PS5, Xbox, or next generation consoles that can support high refresh rate and high frames per second. It also supports 12-bit HDR, Dolby Vision, G-Sync, FreeSync, HDR10 Plus, and a lot more. I will leave some specifications right over here on the screen, but the link will be down below with everything that we can get out of this KVM, which, by the way, it has some LEDs that I will show you in just a few moments that looks really nice, although it has a basic function, which is to have this flexibility in terms of multitasking. Talking about multitasking, the first thing that I would like to mention in terms of accessories before we go to the speed test, I did test out this gamepad. It works perfectly like the keyboard and mouse that I've got right over here, and in terms of gaming, the experience was really awesome. The only suggestion that I would make in terms of a setup with dual screens, not only for this KVM but for everything that we use for dual screens, is that the best experience will come if we use one screen for gaming and the other screen for work or anything that we are browsing, I don't know, something else, but one screen for gaming. I did test out with Forza Horizon 5, which is one of my favorite games. Also tested out with Overwatch 2. The experience was awesome, high refresh rate, high resolution, everything great. But for those that are wondering, okay, I want a dual setup for gaming and I want to use the display for gaming as a single display, I would say that it's not the best scenario. We've tried this in the past. The best scenario is a triple display setup, which we will see in a few days, but with two displays we will get the middle with the bezel, so as you imagine is not the best experience. So for those that are wondering, if you really want a gaming experience with more than one display, then a triple display is the minimum that I would suggest. Nonetheless, for those that want to work and play, this is perfect. Now, talking about perfect, I did test out, and we are going to test out right over here in terms of bandwidth of the Ethernet connection, because at this moment I've got one single cable that connects to the KVM, and the KVM will share to computer number 2 and computer number 1. Now I'm reaching 500 megabits per second, which is the maximum of my ISP, but it is enough to test this out, because we know that we have either 100 megabits, 1 gigabit, 2.5 gigabit, 5 or 10, and at this moment we can check out that it has 1 gigabit speed, reaching out the maximum of my ISP. So this is great. I just need one cable for my two computers to have full bandwidth. I've got also a SSD connected right over here to the KVM, and we can do a speed test. I can go right over here, select target drive, and this is the mini 1 TB. Let's start, and we will reach more or less 500 megabytes per second reads and on writes. So it has a USB 3.0 and it's reaching the maximum of the 500 megabytes per second, 5 gigabit at this moment, writing 433. This will also depend on the SSD that we are using, so these are great speeds and more than acceptable if we want to transfer files from one computer, which is right over here, to the other computer or vice versa, without having to disconnect cables and whatnot. Everything will be transferring automatically from one computer to the other. So let's stop the test. And one of the examples that we can do is that if I press this button and I can open here my computer, and at this moment I've got two hard drives. One is the internal hard drive and the other one is the SSD. So if I press here, we will transfer both displays to the computer number 2, and as we can see, my SSD was recognized. So if I go to my PC on this side, I will have the local disk. I've got another internal SSD on this computer, and then we also have the SSD right over here. Now, in terms of the basic functionality of the KVM, it's easy as just pressing this button and passing from one computer to the other one with both screens. So I'm working on this particular computer which has Windows, but I can be working on a second computer. This one also has Windows, but it can be Linux. Sometimes I'm testing Android machines and I use a KVM on my daily basis, and this is awesome because I don't need to waste any time. But my favorite way to work is not with the KVM, is with the keyboard. But before we go, if you are a bit far from your KVM, which usually I'm not, you can also use the remote control which is included. So if I want to change, for example, to number 2, I can just press the number 2 and we will go to computer number 2, or I can do with computer number 1. There's also a few more combinations right over here of the numbers that we can change one screen or the other, but let's do that with the keyboard, which I believe that it's a lot friendlier. So one of the common situations that I found on my daily basis is that I'm working on two displays, but suddenly I need to see something on my computer on this screen and something on my computer number 2 on this screen. So in this particular case, I just need to press Control left or right screen, sorry, and it will change the right screen to my computer. Now my keyboard and mouse are still locked to computer number 1, so if I want to use this one, I just need to press twice Alt and my keyboard and mouse are now released. And if you are wondering, hey Robert, that's a lot of keys, that's a lot of confusion. It's not. Let me show you something. Let's press double Alt and I'm back on computer number 1. If I go to my browser here, and at this moment I'm on the manual for this KVM, which you can have access as well even before purchasing, and we will see right over here a lot of combinations and a lot of shortcuts that we can use. Now the beauty of this is that there are a lot of shortcuts, but we can learn them slowly. So for example, the control key, if I press twice and press computer number 1, it will change both displays to computer number 1. So it's easy as this. If I do exactly the same but with number 2, it will change to computer number 2. If I do Control left, I will change just the left. So if I do it once again, let me just go to computer number 1. Let's wait because this one takes always more time. Oh, I just did change the mouse, sorry. Control left, there we go, we are back to computer number 2. So this is the easiest way that I use on a daily basis, not only here to show you, but on a daily basis because I work with a similar KVM on my main setup. And talking about shortcuts, there are a few more that I want to share with you, which are probably the first time that I'm using. And let's go for computer number 1 so that I can share with you one right over here, and it has to do with the LEDs here at the bottom. Now first of all, when I change computers, it will change from blue to green, so I can always identify visually right over here. If I press right now, it will go to green and that means computer number 2, and if I press once again, it will go to blue and it will let me know that I'm in computer number 2, in computer number 1, sorry. So this is a visual way to identify the computer that we are connected. But besides that, there is a shortcut right over here which I can show you here, and it's really simple. I just need to press Control L and then from 0 to 3. Now 0 means that the LED at the bottom is completely turned off, which is something that we might want. If we press number 1, it will give me the LED in green or in blue according to the computer that I'm switching to, so it's a reinforcement in terms of the LED. And then if we press number 2, we will have the marquee lightning, which is also really cool. It will change between several lights. And then finally there's a static breathing orange light as well, which might be a cool, which is also a cool light. And of course TESmart is all about orange, so I do believe that if you have only one choice for one color, orange is the best possible scenario. There is one more shortcut before we go, and that has to do with the fan that it's included right over here. So this is an active fan device, which if you have a lot of stuff going on, it will ramp up the fan to keep it cooled down, and if it's not, like now, it is quiet. So my AC is louder than the fan, this computer is louder than the fan. I'm not really sure what you can hear, but I will try to change right over here with you. So if we take a look at the manual here, I just need to press Control F3, and it did give me 4 beeps, and that means that it's on mode 4. The fan operates at high speed. I will try to put my microphone here. So this is the high speed of the fan, which I believe that it's not necessary unless you are in a desert with really huge heat. So if I press Control F3, it will give me 1 beep saying that it's in mode 1, so the fan is completely disabled. At this moment I can't hear anything, and honestly here on my environment with AC on and with the temperature that I have, which is about 23, 24, I could leave it as it is, no fan at all, and I would have a great experience. We can also change to mode number 2, which is the automatic mode, or we can change to the number 3, which is low speed continuously. I know that it's getting refreshed and I will have no issues whatsoever in terms of graphics, in terms of the temperature right over here, but of course this depends on my environment. There are a lot more as you can see, but these are the main ones. And in terms of LEDs, this was the first time that I saw a KVM with LEDs that we could control. That is just awesome. And that is it, simple as this. And once we add this KVM to our setup, our life will be a lot simpler and our desk a lot more organized. And in my calculations, I would save in 1 day's work a lot of minutes just by not having to disconnect and connect, and then it will break my workflow and I will lose time and will get a bit dismotivated. And if you are in that situation, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So with one of these KVMs, which is an investment, we will save a lot of time, probably a few minutes per day, probably 1 hour or 2 in a week, a few hours in a month, and a lot of hours in 1 year. So I do believe that it's a great investment. Now this is one of the possibilities, but if you have a different setup, like 1 computer, 2 displays, 2 computers, 3 computers and 3 displays, we have seen quite a few. I will leave some links down below so that you can check the best KVM for your setup. If you still have any questions, any doubts, please leave a comment down below. I will try to answer as best and as fast as I can. Hopefully this video was helpful to especially understand a little bit better of some of the potential that we can have with a KVM such as this. Now if that was the case, don't forget the usual thumbs up right over there, which is really appreciated on this side of the screen. My name is Roberto, and as always, I'll see you on the next one.